Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
I'm not afraid of a tsunami of mediocrity, nor should you be. Get excellent, and you don't spend a lot of time worrying about other people.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Here we are, another episode of the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass and FullCompass.com.
We know VO.
Nancy Wolfson has been doing this a long time. She is entrenched in the voiceover industry. She is one of the leading coaches in all of voiceover, and we are going to be speaking with her in just a couple of minutes. Bobby, what are you looking forward to about this interview with Nancy?
Just her expertise on the industry as a whole. She's done so much in it, and I love that can be combined into one person. So I have so many questions, I guess, basically is what it comes down to.
Absolutely. And one thing I do know about Nancy, she's beyond intelligent. Like, I kind of want to ask her IQ. Like, I bet it's like in 150 or something like that.
Go for it.
Yeah. But beyond that, she's super funny. She's super sharp.
Yes. I think we're going to both of us and our entire listening audience are going to walk away with some good tidbits about voiceover with Nancy.
She has a literature degree from Vassar College. She's been a casting agent, a talent agent, a producer for Playboy, wink, wink, and for the last 25 years, a voice acting coach. Ladies and gentlemen, owner of Brain Tracks Audio, it's the very special guest, Nancy Wolfson.
Yay!
Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You don't really do podcasts much, do you? Or guest with people like Kevin and myself?
I did a really terrific interview for Chuck Duran and Stacy a while back, and I kind of felt like that covered the waterfront. And then I haven't, I'm pretty picky. I haven't done one. I don't think I've done a podcast. This could be the maiden voyage, you guys. I picked you first for podcasts. Yeah.
Well,
We're super grateful.
I'm thankful. Yeah.
Love it. Could you, Nancy, let's start with your coaching. What's your process? Can you break down briefly, what's your approach to handling students?
Absolutely. One of the things I feel has set me apart since the launch of this, I'm sort of the OG when it comes to coaching. I have a plan. I have a curriculum. My approach is I meet the student where they are. I teach beginners, I teach working pros, and everybody in between. And I try to help everybody become more useful to people who are voice seekers. I know that seems sort of obvious, but it's not exactly a given out there, given what's come up in the last decade or so of what has been called coaching. My plan, my process has proof of concept for a couple of decades now, trying to teach people how to be useful to someone looking to hire a voice talent. And sometimes we attack it from a media perspective. Sometimes we attack it from the drama department perspective. Sometimes we attack it from the music department perspective. Sometimes we attack it from the marketing and advertising department perspective. I started the branding conversation many years ago, and sometimes people need to start from a branding perspective, although we rarely start from the branding perspective. It really depends what a person needs. So I'm here to meet people wherever they are. But sometimes it is a branding conversation. People are marvelously skillful and they're doing a terrific job, and they're marketing themselves inappropriately, or they don't have a real sense of how others perceive them, or they're trying to be too versatile and they haven't come to appreciate what's really special about themselves that needs to come through in their reads and in how they market and brand themselves. So I wish I could say that I had a monochromatic process that I could explain to you, but because every person is different, I try to meet the person where they are and give them what they need. But there is a curriculum that has been formalized and accredited at the university level that takes people through a journey of how to be useful to someone I try to take people through a journey of how to be useful to someone who is seeking to hire a voice talent.
Well, let's back up a second to what you said about there's a lot of people coaching these days, and there are a lot of people coaching these days.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, what qualifies one to coach in VO? And don't hold back.
Don't hold back, Nancy.
Anything can qualify somebody to be a coach. It's interesting you put it to me like that, because I started the coaching conversation many, many years ago, and I'm doing a pivot. You'll probably see me referred to as a coach. You'll probably even see myself in some of my ads here and there calling myself a coach, but I'm really a teacher. In fact, without intending any pretense, I'm really a professor. Every good teacher is a coach, but not every coach is a good teacher.
Nice.
And if you just want to have fun, there are a lot of coaches out there for that. I'm a great teacher. I'm your biggest champion you'll ever have, but I'm really a superlative teacher. And I've come to realize that I'm a teacher. I'm really proud of being a teacher. I don't think there's anything sexier about being a coach. I'm a teacher. I'm an academic at heart. I love education, and I love and respect teachers. Teachers have been the most superlative influence in my life, really terrific teachers. I've been so thankful to have had some of the most extraordinary teachers at the beginning, middle, and end of my education, and every day in my life. Teachers, I really celebrate teachers, and I'm a teacher. What qualifies somebody to be a coach? Anybody can call themselves a coach. What qualifies somebody to be a phenomenal teacher? Education, proof of concept, experience. What qualifies me to be a teacher is that I've had a view from the balcony. I've been a talent manager, celebrity talent manager. I've been an agent. I've run a voiceover talent agency. I've been a casting director for decades. I've listened to thousands and thousands of auditions. I've sat at that intersection between auditions and then finding out within hours or days who books. So my curriculum has been based upon not what Nancy thinks is funny and Nancy likes, rather, but what tends to book consistently over time. That's what's developed my coursework. So what I teach people to do is based on my unique access and my unique filter, and to be honest, a rather academic filter about what patterns tend to book consistently over time, whether it's comedy or timing or rhythm or tempo or acting or choices about where you pause or what volume you use and what different forms of media, or the structure basics of different types of ads. I've been able to smartly dissect what consistently books over time, and that has been the launch pad for my curriculum.
I forgot to mention also, Nancy, that you're a producer. So I want to kind of follow up on the coaching question, and I think I want to get to the guts of what Bobby was asking. So somebody's doing it for 2 years as a full-time voice actor. All of a sudden they go to coaching and producing demos. How does that make you feel?
More power to them.
Okay.
I mean, the results speak for themselves. I've got proof of concept, and I don't need to deride anybody. I mean, they'll do what they'll do. That I do. I've been in the business of developing, defending, protecting, and encouraging talent for decades. So I have a hypersensitivity to the huckster circuit. and so
That's a good way to put it.
I'm not talent myself. I'll never compete with
Get your
talent
snake
for a
oil,
job.
yeah?
Well, I'm your teacher. I'm never going to compete with you. I'm your champion. And you'll never need to wonder if I'm ever holding anything back so that I can book it myself. I want to encourage and develop you. Listen, I love my job, and I love being able to do my job, and I'm in it for the long tail. And the more I can help my students win, the longer I get to do what I love to do. And so I'm in the business of building up you. And when I build up you and you guys win consistently over time, that's great for my business. And that's great for my joys. That gets me up in the morning. Listen, I was new at one point, and I had tremendous mentors. I have proof of concept consistently over time. What makes somebody a good coach? Results consistently over time.
Okay, you touched on being new yourself one time. There are a lot of newbies, I don't like that term, but I couldn't think of another one, since COVID, because we all went into our home studios. I'm curious, for someone being new or that has, come over from radio or television, do we have a fighting chance against those who come into voiceover with acting skills? as a coach?
Who's the we?
Anybody, myself, anybody that does not have the acting skills, but is coming into voiceover. As a coach, how do you think we have a fighting chance because we don't have an acting background?
Like on-camera acting.
Oh,
We voice actors.
everybody has a fighting chance if they have the right teacher.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
I mean, I'm here to, like I said, I'm here to teach people and meet you where you are, right? So if there's something you need, I'll teach it to you. Now, depending on aptitude, sometimes I'm pouring water into a sponge and sometimes I'm pouring it on a rock. I'm relentless. I'll get you there. But I love teaching and I love figuring out how to get it into different people because everybody learns differently. Everybody learns at a different rate. Everyone learns different things at a different rate. Some people learn the musical aspects very quickly. Some people learn the acting aspects very quickly. Some people learn the comedy aspects really quickly. Some people come to me because they've been ad agency producers and directors and they understand how to be fit for purpose better than an actor. I'll teach them the acting parts. Some people come to me having been musicians and they understand rhythm and timing beautifully. I have some people come to me who have a singing background. They understand resonance and placement better than I can articulate it to them.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the person's back. I believe everybody has a fighting chance. And a lot of people are a lot more teachable than one might imagine given the right teacher, right? So yeah, I think a lot of people have a fantastic fight. To declare somebody unteachable or not to have as much of a fighting chance because they're absent a piece of a background that somebody else might have, well, that somebody else might have a piece of a background that you don't have. You might have a piece of a background that they don't have. You might have talents that they don't have. They might have talents that you don't have. Keep your eyes on your own paper. I'll get you there.
Don't go anywhere. The Making Waves VO podcast returns in a moment.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. I, on the other hand, am Eric Romanowski of Ear Blowing Audio, and I don't know the first thing about podcasts other than that you should keep listening to this one.
Oh, Bobby, this reminder is presented by Full Compass and FullCompass.com.
Check this out. For a limited time, save 20% off your entire purchase at Full Compass.
Dynamic microphones, condenser mics, interfaces, cables, headphones, monitors.
Yeah, all that stuff. 20% off your entire purchase with very few exclusions. Call Full Compass at 800-356-5844 and just mention VO Atlanta 24 and they're going to take 20% off your entire basket.
But it can only last until the end of March. Browse FullCompass.com, have your wish list ready, then call 800-356-5844 and get 20% off.
That's 800-356-5844.
Full Compass, FullCompass.com.
We know VO.
And now, back to Making Waves. Producers and voice seekers may think that the market is oversaturated because of everybody getting into voiceover. Since COVID, so many people are doing that. We voice actors may consider that to be wrong with the industry. Nancy Wolfson, in this modern time, do you have anything that you think is wrong with the voiceover industry right now?
Two different questions, right? Is the market oversaturated? And do I think there's anything wrong with the voiceover industry?
Sure.
Two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, anything that's a lot of fun and pays your bills and could potentially pay your bills very well, that's a whole lot of fun, is going to be competitive. A lot of people want to go to Harvard. It's a lot of people want.
Or Vassar.
Show me.
Oh.
I would expect that something that's a heck of a lot of fun that you can do from home that pays pretty well if you get good at it is going to be competitive, right?
Yeah.
Move over. Better hurry up getting excellent. I'm not afraid of a tsunami of mediocrity, nor should you be. Get excellent, and you don't spend a lot of time worrying about other people.
There's your hot take right there.
I don't think I've ever said that before, but I really feel that way. Anything that's really fun and pays fairly well and you get to do from home, it's a tremendously fun way to spend a life. Why wouldn't it be competitive?
So that's the saturation, competitive nature. Is there anything wrong from your perspective?
Yeah, but excellence isn't saturated.
That's true.
Be untouchable, be inscrutable, be phenomenal, be interesting, be amazing. I'm not worried about mediocrity, nor should you be. Get excellent. You don't need to worry about mediocrity.
So as far as types of voiceover that are out there. Of course, with the conversational read, the flat read, the vocal fry. Are there any types of voices or voice styles that are in a shortage today that you think would really become the next hot type?
Oh, I don't teach trends. I teach being able to recognize the emotional point of a piece of copy and be able to live in that emotional point and suit it and be fit for purpose best you can, given what that script is trying to say. What's it trying to drop in the customer or the listener's mind? Actions, benefits, and what's the emotional point that gets it there, right? And then it's going to come out of your voice. I find it tricky to try to teach styles and trends, although I do at the very end. See, after I've taught you how to be fit for purpose, after I've taught you how to recognize the emotional point, the rhythms, the tempos, how to be funny, mic technique, all of that kind of thing. Then if you need to be able to put a filter on it for perhaps a flat effect or a vocal collapse here and there that could speak to a trend or something like that, or a more resonant thing or a breathier thing, you can put those things at the end of your camera lens almost as if it were a filter. And you can do that after you can be in the ink and fit for purpose. So I almost look at those things as filters on a read that's already useful. And if you want to learn the filters, I can teach you the filters. It's not that hard. Are there trends out there? Sure, but I don't think trends should come first in terms of a learning process. I don't really even think they ought to be the focus. Anybody who's been in voiceover for more than 5 minutes has read online somewhere or been told by 100 different teachers on the front end that it's really not about the sound of your voice and that people shouldn't be trying to focus on the sound of their voice. And all of us have been approached by somebody who has said at one point or another, oh, I've been told that I have a lovely voice. I should get into voiceover. And we all know as a knee-jerk response that the first answer to that is, oh, it's not about the sound of your voice. Okay, well, so given that, if that's the first thing we tell to any waiter or our mom's daughter's friend's cousin who says they've been told they have a nice voice and they want to get into voiceover, we all now have had that knee-jerk reaction to say to them, oh, okay, voiceover 101. It's not about the sound of your voice. Well, then fast forward, why are we talking about teaching trends if it's not about the sound of your voice, right? So if it's not about the sound of your voice that we all know to tell any stranger who approaches us in the supermarket and says, oh, wow, you're in voiceover? People tell me I should get into voiceover because they say that I have this terrific voice, or people tell me I should get into it, right? We all say to them, it's not about the sound of your voice, then don't focus on vocal fry.
I got you. Nancy, you mentioned a minute ago about teaching humor to voice actors. How does humor, because you're a funny gal, how does humor play a part in your coaching or your teaching process?
Funny like a clown, funny.
Yeah. What am I, a clown to you?
Oh, funny, thank you. How does humor factor in? Well.
Is it engagement? Is it, it breaks down the wall a little bit?
Right. I would like to think that my humor is a thing that can kind of mitigate what can be a persistent high bar academically over here, right? I'm not barking at anybody. There's definitely a humor that's peppered through it to make sure that we all remember that this is happening in good love and good spirits, and oftentimes on myself, something rather self-effacing. So that's my humor that comes to it. But I also have noticed that a lot of fantastic advertising over the years has borrowed from patterns in comedy to be effective. A lot of, just to give you a tip of the hand of some of my coursework stuff, but a lot of ad copy draws people in with comedy and then does a pivot to the sale, right? Don't you hate it when blah, 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 like observational comedy from the 80s or 90s. Don't you hate it when this happens and that? Well, and then before you know it, bonk, you're in a commercial, right? Yeah. Or then there's a lot of other things, epic poems and aspirational things and other trends in how ad copy is written. I don't mean trends in the style of the voice. I mean trends in how ad copy is written. So they could be comedy that engages and entertains, and before you know it, whoop, you're in a commercial, or something that's aspirational, and whoop, before you know it, you're in a commercial. So for that section of ad copy patterns that uses comedy to draw people in, you got to know how to work comedy. There's a pattern and a rhythm to comedy and how it's delivered. The first album, you see a lot of these things on social media. What was the first album you ever had? What was the first album you ever listened to? People are talking about this rock and roll album, that rock and roll album. The first album I ever owned was The Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart. I was 4.
Oh my
5.
gosh.
That's a little weird, but
No,
and
but
I
that's
had
legendary.
Right. I had a collection of comedy albums when I was a kid, and I listened to them over and over and over. And I watched tons and tons of comedy specials since an early age. I used to represent some of the most famous comedians in the industry. And I've always loved comedy and how comedy is delivered. And there are rhythms and patterns to how comedy is delivered. There's a mic technique to bumping the snapper at the end. There's a way to I've recognized, I'm a pattern monkey. I have recognized patterns my entire life, whether it's learning several languages or music or advertising or comedy. I'm a pattern monkey, and I teach those patterns to you. And comedy patterns are a huge part of how ad copy is written. So you need to know how it's written and recognize those comedy patterns, and then recognizing the patterns of how comedy is best delivered and most effectively delivered is huge, especially as I believe it's one of the huge weapons in protecting ourselves against AI. So to talk about comedy opens up a huge conversation about, sure, you need to be able to recognize the comedy patterns, deliver comedy effectively, because it's a huge way that advertising sneaks in there and puts the pill in the peanut butter for a sale, right? But comedy is one of your best tools for protecting yourself against a computer taking your job. And sometimes it can be your distance from the microphone for something absurd or ridiculous, and then coming in to pocket a parenthetical for a comedic snapper at the end. That's something that a human can do, and that a human can choose to do on the black and white of a script that doesn't exactly tell you to do that, but comedy training can have you doing that. It's a great weapon against getting replaced by a computer.
This is Heather Bell, voice actor, and I can tell you you've made an awesome choice listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. I know you're gonna enjoy it.
Nancy, some folks think they're being funny when they troll things. I was watching some of your videos, and somebody, one of your techniques is standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting, and we can get into that in a second. But one of the comments from one of the trolls was, "Oh, I used to date Nancy Wolfson, and she made me stand the entire time we dated. She has no chairs in her house." Now, that clearly was a troll comment, which kind of cracked me up. But that being said, what are your thoughts on industry trolls?
There have been bullies since the dawn of time. I don't give them any quarter.
Okay.
What are you going to do? Yeah. I almost don't want to give them any attention on your podcast, right? They're there to seek
but it's fun.
They're there to seek attention. They're there to pull focus, and I'm not going to give it to them.
I love that. I love that angle. They're there to pull focus, and that crystallizes it exactly. That's all they're there to do, to be a clown, to be a troll, and to say, hey, me, pay attention to me.
As a lot of people are in the world, not just in voiceover. Yeah.
I don't give any quarter to bullies.
All right, let's change lanes here. I'm gonna get some free advice from you. Not
Hit me. I want to help. Hit me.
Yeah. So there's so many opportunities for reading for an agent or a casting director out there, or webinars, or if you're being considered for that agent's roster. And you nail it. Literally nail it. And they go, "Ooh, do you already have an agent?" Or, "Are you booking?" But come audition time, crickets. What are we doing wrong that we can do so well on the spot? And then we come into an audition and go, "Where did that go? What happened?"
Which is more stressful for you, that moment of being interviewed or your audition that you create by yourself at home?
Nervousness, the first one, but more stressful would be the audition at home.
I see. That's an important distinction, right? Mm-hmm. Performance anxiety is a real issue. And I've had a lot of students say, "Oh gosh, I'm finally here in my lesson with you. I'm a little nervous." And I don't mean to be sadistic when I say this, but I say, good. Let's get you, it's like exposure response therapy. Good, because you need to learn how to move through performance anxiety. You need to learn how to move through nervousness. I'm certainly not here to scare anybody, but I am here to hold the bar high. And let's get you some exposure to being a little utsy, a little anxious, and then take that ball of whatever that is, right? And grab it almost like somebody's thrown you a big golden ball of like vibrating energy, right? And instead of internalizing it and swallowing it and collapsing into it, throw that back. Use it as firepower. I saw somebody interviewed on the red carpet for the Oscars the other evening, and they said, "Are you nervous?" And you could tell her publicist gave her a great answer. She said, "I'm excited. I'm excited." And while that might have been sort of performative and prescriptive for her to have said that, it is a great mindset that you take any of that frantic or chaotic energy and reframe it in an enthusiastic way, because energy is energy, right? And so let's direct it to focus you like a hot laser. And let's, use that energy to throw urgency into your secondary reality and to be anticipatory on behalf of the company rep, and just take whatever energy you've downloaded out of the atmosphere as a kind of a feeling, and use it to re-empower yourself, and take that, grab that golden ball of shivering, whatever that is, and drive your read with it.
Love that.
The other thing is, nothing dismantles nerves quite like knowing I got this.
Right.
If you've gone through a terrific course of study, you can take a big deep breath and say to yourself, okay, Nancy gave me a GPS for my read, right? I know how to count cards at the casino. I have pattern recognition. It's still a casino, but I couldn't have gone through everything I've gone through with all these lessons with her and all these chapters and all these tools hanging off my tool belt that I've learned in chapter after chapter after chapter, concept after concept after concept, trenching pattern recognition. Listen, it isn't fast, it isn't easy, it isn't cheap. But after you trench all that pattern recognition, you can kind of say to yourself, I know how to count cards at this casino. I'm good. I got this. Let's go. So a fantastic, deep, smart course of study that has challenged you, your mind, your voice, your acting, your emotional resonance. You can look inside when you feel that, ooh, and go, I couldn't have come all this way and have patterned all of this and trenched all of this to not know what I'm doing. I got this. That's what a solid course of study gives you, is that thing to be able to say to yourself, I got this. Hit it to me. Throw me the ball. I got this.
Nancy, are agents in trouble in terms of, because I just saw another story today. Oh, my longtime agent is closing up shop. And I'm not talking about New York, LA, but more regional agents. Are agents in trouble? What are your thoughts in general on today's agents?
Excellence is never in trouble. Do you see a theme here?
I see the pattern.
I mean, I'm friends with Wes Stevens and Tom Lawless, John Wasser. They're not in trouble. I don't feel like I'm in trouble. Excellence isn't in trouble. They know how to pivot. I think talent has very smartly figured out how to market themselves, and smart agents have learned how to pivot and do what talent has been doing for the last 15 years to broaden the scope of their access to voice seekers, right? I mean, I'm old school. When I'm marketing myself, I don't send out a MailChimp to everybody in some tsunami, some diluvian thing that goes out to zillions of people to where they all hit delete on it. That's not marketing, right? But, you take somebody out for a cocktail at the Peninsula, that's marketing. And that's what we used to do when I was an agent. You had an expense account, and I just used to cold call ad agencies and production companies and producers, and how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And just take them out for a drink. Nice to meet you. Well, that's a tricky way to, you go deep in a relationship, and that is one means of marketing. But while a lot of agents were using that as their means of marketing, talent who was out there getting told that there's no room at the inn was doing marvelous, broad, and yes, sometimes deep relationship investments that were getting them terrific buyer relationships, right? And the clever agents were taking note of what talent has been doing to broaden and deepen buyer relationships. I used to joke that, like that thing, like every time, every time that you hear a bell, an angel gets its wings, right?
Right.
I was saying about 10, 15 years ago, every time talent gets themselves a job, there's a commission that didn't go through a talent agency, right? And over time, you get a lot of talent. Like I have talent coming to me who didn't go to Yale Drama School and haven't been on Broadway, but they've been in the business world in marketing and advertising. Wow, teach that person how to act. They're thermonuclear when it comes to getting themselves out there, right? The smart agents signed those people. the smart agents didn't look at those people and say, oh, well, you've been making yourself, it was tricky, right? There was this catch-22 a long time ago where agents would expect you to have had some proof of concept, right? Why should we take a risk on you? Oh, look, you've gotten yourself, but you didn't want to get too much work for yourself out there because you were the picture of what has been disintegrating their business model, right? Darned if you do, darned if you don't, right? And so agents were a little bit twitchy about talent who had gotten themselves too much work out there, because an agent would look at that person and go, well, goodness sakes, you're the reason we had to lose 2 assistants last year, because all those jobs you got yourself were commissions that didn't come through our talent agency, right? The smart agents, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. The smart agents pulled those talents into their world and signed them and powwowed on now exactly what are you doing that's broader, deeper, and wider than me taking to somebody to drinks, right? Or I'll continue to take those producers out for a smoothie or whatever it is. And what is it that you've been doing now to keep your reach so broad, so deep, so interesting, your social marketing? What are you doing? And they have teamed forces, the smart agents, with people who have a really good, deep, broad reach, rather than giving them the Heisman. You know, that trophy of the Heisman Trophy where like he's trying to block oncoming. You don't want to give the Heisman to people who you could bring into your fold and work together. All the old school methods, all the new school methods, you know, excellence pivots. And the terrific agents have figured out how to use their old school techniques and welcome in talent who can help have perhaps more modern dynamics of marketing, and they work together. So excellence isn't going out of business anytime soon.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. I'm George Washington III, voice actor, and I know they appreciate you listening.
Well, let's flip to the talent side of the agent issue. We're right in the middle of conference season where a lot of voiceover talent are just absorbing all this information and tips, and they're going to come out of it going, okay, I got to find an agent, and they're going to send out a letter, a note, submit, whatever. Having been an agent before and knowing agents, and even as a coach, what would you say would turn one off to it automatically hit the delete button, and what would you look for in a note to an agent?
Any kind of smart marketing, whether you're trying to market yourself to a buyer or a talent rep, takes in consideration what the other person needs and isn't me, 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 me. Of course, you have to show why you'd be useful and what your proof of concept is, and that you've done your due diligence, and that you've done hard things and overcome them and been hired or maybe not been hired. Talent agents sign people who've never had a job before. There is still hope on that front as well. But I think a really good pitch does its homework, and a really good pitch takes a deep listen to everybody that's on their roster and pitches in a way that suggests how that person could be useful, new, different. A good pitch considers what the other person needs and fills that hole, right? So it's not about how many conferences you've been to or that kind of thing, or it's really about how you can be useful. I think empathy, it's strange, right? But empathy is always attractive. Like, I think I could be useful to you in this way. A really good read does the same thing as a really good pitch to a talent agent. I've tried to study what you might need and thoughtfully, here's how I think I could be useful to you. You make it about the other person.
I get that angle, obviously, but most times when we think of that angle and we do adopt that mindset of what's in it for the agent, because I'm a huge proponent of that and being mindful of that, is it beyond just the money like you're saying right there, I guess? Because I ultimately go, okay, how can I help you make money? Because that is what an agent is going to be thinking of first, I would think.
Right. And maybe the goal's not the goal. Maybe a lot of people get so defeated if they can't get an agent or they can't get a major market agent, and they feel like it's all over, or maybe I don't have it. Maybe the goal's not always the goal. It's such a fantastic landscape now. It's so much fun. There's so much opportunity out there. The internet is an opportunity machine, right? So if, in the 90s, if you didn't get an agent, you were dead in the water. You needed to think about something else to do for a living. If finding somebody to champion you at a talent agency isn't happening right now, there are a lot of other ways that you can go find yourself income and ways to have a terrific way spending your day making a living at this that maybe don't necessarily involve an agent just yet, and circle back to it later. Maybe the goal that you think you're after isn't necessarily the goal. I mean, my goodness, a perfect example of that is the demo fever that I see going on out there. The first people come to me for a lesson, they go, how soon can I get a demo?
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe that goal is not your goal. Maybe you need to learn how to be useful to somebody seeking a voice talent for starters, and demo, well, because there's an award for a demo, and these conferences are oftentimes very demo focused and speed dating for your demo. And has it occurred to anybody that there's a lot of selling of demos at these places that inflate the narrative about the demo? I'm not saying you don't need one. Of course you need one someday, eventually. It's a calling card, it's a sales tool, but there's been such a demo fever that talent has absorbed because people are selling demos. I mean, listen, I'm a demo producer. I won Best Commercial Demo again at the Voice Arts Awards this year for Best Commercial Demo. And I'm proud of the gal who did it. I'm proud of my engineer. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. I have so much fun making demos. It's a long process. It's a hard process. And it's such a gratifying process. And I love that I win the Best Commercial Demo over and over again. Do you see me crowing about it a lot? I mean, apart from the fact that I just did, but do you see me crowing about it on social media a lot? No.
You
Do you
don't.
see me in the front of this and that barking about how we won Best Commercial Demo again? No, because I want you to get good at performance first. I don't want you to have demo fever. I want you to have, I need to be useful to a buyer fever, not I need to have sales tools fever, you know? And
Nancy,
at some point when you're excellent, I'll make you demo. I gotcha. But it's, demo. See, here's the thing. For people who charge a whole lot more than I do for a demo, and, God bless them, free market, do what you want. There's a huge profit margin in making demos. So it serves a lot of people who make those demos to have aspiring voice talent, want a demo, because you can outsource it to someone on your team. I don't, I make them all myself, but with my engineer, but you can outsource it to someone on your team and put a big price tag on it. And a lot of people who are made to think, I need a demo, go buy one. Nobody in that dynamic seems to care if you have a long tail career. They just capitalize on demo fever, and it sort of doesn't have a long tail. And that's caveat emptor. That's all I can say. But I don't begrudge people charging what they charge. I just don't want talent to get caught up in what people selling them things want them to get caught up in. I want talent to have fantastic performances, enjoy their lives doing voiceover, be fit for purpose, be independent, be self-reliant. And then you don't get so devastated if an agent doesn't sign you. You don't get demo fever. You get useful and people hire you and you make money and you spend your money on your life and your family and all those other things.
What would you say would be the number one reason to people who are considering it not to do your own demo, not just to make it yourself? Because you see a lot of that in social media.
Making their own demos. Well, if you'd asked me that question a long time ago, I would say you can't afford to suck. You can't even afford to, pardon my French, but you can't even afford to be average. And a lot of times people making their own demos, agents, casting people, voice seekers who do consider demos, they have such a spring-loaded no that you cannot afford to be anything less than dynamic, interesting, and top shelf. There's no such thing as a baby demo or a first demo, but sellers of demos would have you thinking that, right? You can't afford, listen, bridesmaid don't get paid. So you can't afford to be anything less than excellent, superlative, top notch. And you can't bleed your budget doing a bunch of baby versions of things that might scratch a small itch for you, but they bleed your budget. See, that's also another liability of that thinking, right? But if you'd asked me that question a long time ago, I would have said, well, you can't afford to have a homemade demo because they already have such a spring-loaded no anyway. Why present yourself as average? And you'd be surprised, some of the most awful demos anyone's ever heard are kind of memorable because they're that bad. You can't, you never get a second chance to make a first impression and all of that.
Exactly.
But you know what? I would change my answer today because a lot of the people who've left radio and who are pursuing voiceover today make better homemade demos than 10 years ago because of their backgrounds in radio and production. So they're not de facto terrible, but are they clever enough to compete with the top market demo just because they have a lot of zing, bang, wow production on them? See, here's the other thing about, I don't mean to go on and on about this, but here's another thing about demos. I have a lot of agent and producer friends, producer at ad agency, producer at production company pals, time after time after time, who tell me they don't even listen to demos anymore. Again, do you need one? Yes. Listen, I pay my mortgage on demos and I love making them. And there's something that needs to be a part of your overall business model. But I have so many producers and agents who've told me that they don't listen to demos anymore. Okay, no one selling demos is going to tell you that. But because the demo producers have gotten better, and there's so many of them, back to your question about what a homemade demo, demos have gotten better. So a homemade demo isn't as terrible as it was 10 years ago. Does it compete with the top market demo? Probably not. But a homemade demo isn't as terrible as it used to be. And then I'm going to tie all of that up in a garbage bag and say, I know tons of voice seekers who do not even listen to them anymore. Why? Because they're not so terrible anymore. And because even a B- demo producer can line read you through a couple of short edits and bury you in sound effects and music, it's often a very misleading portrait of what you can do. So I've had several agents who've come to me. They say, oh, it's a Nancy demo? Great. I don't even need to listen to it. And I say, what do you mean you don't even need it? We spent a lot of time and energy on this. They say, yeah, but it's one of yours. I know it's going to be great. And I know you put people through the paces and you don't make a demo for just anybody off the street. So they wouldn't get to demo with you unless their auditions, their raw auditions were really phenomenal. You wouldn't make them a demo. So the fact that you made them a demo, Nancy, your demo could be 1 minute and 10 seconds of blank or 60 seconds of blank audio. I know it's fine. I know the person's fine because they said, I've entertained representing people who have B+, A- demos made for them, right? For years. And then I start sending them auditions, the agents or managers say to me, and their auditions are terrible without somebody line reading them and without being drowned in what we would call an audio photoshopping of production and sound effects. Well, they've been entertained by really terrific demos, and then they spend the time and energy to meet with that person, to send them auditions and listen to dozens of their auditions. Guess what? Their raw auditions, which is the only thing that a voice seeker or a buyer ever hears, are terrible compared to that overproduced demo. And everybody wasted their time. And so agents, sometimes I know now, send the talent 6 pieces of copy. You got 30 minutes to get it back to me. Let's go. That's what they use to test to see if you're fit for purpose to be represented by them. Because a photoshopped demo is a great chance that it's going to trigger an epic waste of time for representation and for talent. So while you do need to have a demo, whether you can deliver terrific auditions is really the litmus test. And more, that's what I'm hearing representation using to determine whether or not they rep you, because the homemade demo question is almost problematic. The homemade demos aren't so terrible anymore. The problem is that they're not so terrible anymore. And they're sometimes misleading in how they make the talent sound better than they are in the true landscape of what is going to be used to determine whether they make anybody any money themselves in particular.
Yeah.
In the Making Waves VO podcast, we'll be right back.
Hello, this is Rebecca Lee. Psych, girl, let me stop playing. It's me, Rebecca Lee. You're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby.
Oh, Bobby, this reminder is presented by Full Compass and FullCompass.com.
Check this out. For a limited time, save 20% off your entire purchase at Full Compass.
Dynamic microphones, condenser mics, interfaces, cables, headphones, monitors.
Yeah, all that stuff. 20% off your entire purchase with very few exclusions. Call Full Compass at 800-356-5844 and just mention VO Atlanta 24, and they're going to take 20% off your entire basket.
But it can only last until the end of March. Browse FullCompass.com, have your wish list ready, then call 800-356-5844 and get 20% off.
That's 800-356-5844.
Full Compass, FullCompass.com.
We know VO. Now back to the podcast.
We're talking with voice acting teacher Nancy Wolfson, owner of Brain Tracks Audio. And Nancy, speaking of teaching, I know you used to do this a fair amount, but it seems like it has kind of ceased. Maybe it hasn't, maybe I don't know. But you don't do much teaching in person anymore, do you? And will you be doing that? Would you consider going to conferences, or is that all done?
I'm always willing to entertain it. I have a terrific dynamic with teaching in person in London.
So we got to go to London to see you in person?
Yeah, maybe. Let's go.
Okay, I'm in.
Not a bad reason to go.
I don't teach in person now for a variety of reasons. It's just never been the most effective way for me to do what I know I do best. And I focus better when it's on the phone. Listen, I used to have for forever. I had people coming over to my home, and quite frankly, it's not the best way for the talent. Listen, talent needs to study in the dynamic that the teacher knows is the best way that the teacher teaches what they teach. And sometimes it seems absurd for somebody to bully a dynamic that they think they want when that's not how the person who's been doing it forever knows that they best implant the information to you. Why is it not great for the talent? When they were coming to me in person here in LA, traffic is bad. They would miss a percentage of the cost of their lesson just by being late, couldn't find parking, when I was in a condo, stuck in the elevator, I need a glass of water, pet the kitty, I gotta pee, and then you got 10 minutes left in your lesson. That's never the case when they call me, right? Right, and then the other issue, and recent viruses notwithstanding, to be fair, there's a cancellation policy. I honor a cancellation policy with my manicurist or my eye doctor. I have a cancellation policy too. And a lot of times when people knew that they had signed an agreement that they were going to honor a cancellation policy for cost of session if they weren't able to do their lesson that same day, where, by the way, I spend the cost of that time working on potential demo copy for them. It's never wasted money. But they didn't want to miss their lesson. So they came in coughing, sneezing, hacking into my home because they didn't want to lose the money. And why? That was never good for anybody. I don't know. I spend a lot of even just with you guys today, I've been spending a lot of the time with my eyes closed and my forehead in the palm of my hand. It's how I concentrate. That looks really rude in person. Sometimes I have a presence that could be distracting, right? And so someone's in person with me and my head is down and they're thinking to themselves, I drove all the way from Burbank for this. She's not even looking at me. Or, oh, she's screwing up her face funny. I'm wondering when I can go get a glass of water. I'm not thinking Eureka's terrible. There's a lot of distraction in person too. It's just, I feel like when it's audio only, which is our world, I feel like it's a thermonuclear focus. And the late thing, the sick thing, the coughing, the coming in your house, the safety issue of strangers coming in and out of your home. I remember I was one of the first people on those internet dating sites, right? And even back in the day, and still to this day, you meet somebody in a Starbucks first if they're a total stranger or whatever, and then maybe later they see where you live. All of my students used to come to me referred by this one or somebody we mutually knew, right? And these days, much of my traffic comes from social media or Google or whatnot, and it didn't feel safe to have this one in a river of strangers in and out of my home. But anyway, it's just not the most effective means of study for my students. And that's what it's really about. It's not about me.
I'm having these visions of Barry with Bill Hader and Henry Winkler as the coach.
Right? Yeah, it's really, honestly, it's less about me. The whole teaching dynamic is really not about me. It's about you guys. And I know what puts the best results into you guys. And too much time, money is lost when you're schlepping over. Also, there's this thing about in person, right? If people get stressed out driving in traffic, there's enough problems of performance anxiety. They don't need to walk in all cranked up because they were stressed that they were running late. Nobody's ever late on the phone. Anyway, it's really about what's best for you guys. And I have been trying to move people into a non-in-person dynamic for years because the proof has been that it's the best way for you to succeed, at least given how I teach and what I teach. It's far more concentrated and it's far more robust and focused for you.
That being said, if students are interested in coaching with you, where can they go to get more information?
braintracksaudio.com. It sounds so much better if you said it. You're the talent, right? I say it in my radio voice, but like braintracksaudio.com, BrainTracksAudio.com. There's an application portal there, and folks just need to click the big gold Get Started link, fill out the application, and I will get back to you personally.
Nancy, so when you're so say somebody goes to the website and, they get into the portal and everything, what lets you know they're worthy of working with you? What's your assessment process?
Well, the questions on the application were crafted over time, and I can tell a lot by the response to those questions, but I don't want anyone to stress out too much when they answer those questions. But I can tell a lot by the responses to those questions. But in terms of what's going to make a talent successful over time, the qualities that present as good indicators that that person's going to have success over time versus qualities that present that show that there's going to be problems for that person, not just in their relationship with their teacher here, but over time for themselves, are apart from that application, when we start working together, things that show me a person's really going to be a winner. Can they grind? Do they have grit? Do they have good sense? Do they have determination? Are they comfortable getting uncomfortable? Are they wanting to just have fun, or are they interested in the unvarnished truth? Things like that. I'm hypersensitive to unprofessional behavior, disorganized behavior, not just a couple of excuses, but people who are excuse machines, unstable energy, unreliable behavior. That's not just not going to go well with me, right? But that's just not going to be professional. That they're not going to have a good career. But people who have grind and good humor and good sense, they can read the room, they'll do well, not just with me, but they'll do well in life and in voiceover.
Love it. Nancy, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for being on the Making Waves VO podcast. And we hope to have you again sometime if you'll have us.
Oh, my goodness sakes. I would love to. One thing I really did want to say is that being a winner is a mindset. To do well at this, or really anything, it's winning jobs again and again, consistently over time. It's personal growth. It's self-reliance when life happens, right? And it's a mindset more than it is a medal or anything else like that. It's a mindset of honesty with self and willingness to get uncomfortable and a desire to learn and grow and have fun.
Well said. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time, and this was a lot of fun. Honestly, I was a little scared.
Oh, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. Goodness gracious, we were scared. I was shaking in my boots before you came on the line.
He was. Wait till you hear the beginning of it, Nancy.
Honestly, you guys, I was a little scared of myself. I don't want to trash anybody. I really don't. People going to do what they're going to do.
You're good, Nancy. Thank you so much. Now, Nancy, what an energetic guest, full of knowledge. She's going to go, you're going to say full of shit, Kevin. You're going to say full of shit, weren't you? But not. She is very intelligent, and I love the name of her business. Brain Tracks just is so appropriate. Yeah, I never did get to ask her what her IQ was, but I bet it's probably 270. It's 380. Her IQ is 560. It is. Last time I read it was 780. Well, Google it. You'll probably find it. But Nancy, what a great guest. And You can tell she is super passionate about teaching voiceover. And as she mentioned, all levels, beginner, intermediate, working pros. She's going to try to get you to the next level wherever you are. The Making Waves VO podcast has been brought to you by Full Compass and FullCompass.com. We know VO, yo. Did they change Bobby, it? No. Bobby, you know what's coming up on the next episode of the Making? It's going to be all about me, Bobby, me, on the next episode of the Making Waves VO podcast. However, we're going to have two amazing guests in Eric Romanowski and Tom Pinto. But, Kevin, okay, it's your documentary demo, and you've not heard it yet. It's a reveal party. It's going to be crying or shouting like in leaps of joy. Now, I want to explain how this kind of went down. So I've been working with Tom Pinto. Tom Pinto, I consider him like a mentor in the documentary and show narration space. He's just such a kind, giving teacher in that space. And I've worked with Tom on and off over the years. And so I wanted a shiny new documentary